Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show. We are finally back after a long international break. Has finally come to another close. We're very happy to be back and ready to predict the outcome of the next match week ahead of us for the Bundesliga. Joined tonight by Peter. Welcome back, Peter. How are you doing? How did you spend your international break?
Well, as often the case, I spent it following a lot of Women's Champions League. You know, I love women's football as well, so it's good to be back. My congratulations to you on all of your Stuttgart actors performing so well for the German national team. I bet you're very, very excited. And in addition to that, I congratulate you on having a German trainer in charge of your national football team as well. That is congratulations on two fronts.
Thank you very much. Yeah, there's certainly been no shortage of news, certainly across the international break, especially with respect to the English national team. The reaction has been so very interesting and staggering in many senses of the mainstream media and things like that. So, which I've really have been baffled by. Tuchel coming in should just be backed in terms of that he is one of the world class winners from a head coach point of view who is currently out there. So it seems a very logical step for the FA to approach him and give him this opportunity. But yeah, either way around, very interesting to see how that goes. At least it might make the next international break more exciting.
I should put Justin
Sorry.
and Ballum are also reminding us that we had a bit of a political footballing earthquake with Jurgen Klopp being put in charge of Red Bull Soccer.
We did. Nice.
Ridiculous amount of things going on in this international break. Crazy stuff.
It has been crazy. But yeah, it's given us something to talk about at least. But thankfully, the Bundesliga is back tomorrow evening. So we get to talk about that. The best league going. Yeah, just before we do, of course, if you can give us a thumbs up on the video. Give us your chat, give us your predictions. Justin, Ballum, Moritz, everyone tuning in. Mark can't join us tonight, but Mark, if you're watching, I'm sure you'll share your thoughts as well. So yeah, let's get stuck into it. We'll work our way through. And of course, we've got some Friday night football to enjoy tomorrow evening. Dortmund taking on FC St. Pauli. So far this season, the Friday night game has very much produced the goods in terms of its excitement and the match quality. Seems like a game that could also produce. For me, just looking at it on the basic sense of these two teams, Dortmund have seemed to turn back into the beast of the Champions League and the not so sure of themselves in the Bundesliga format. But yeah, fancy them against a newly promoted side at home on a Friday night. I'm sure it'd be a great atmosphere at Signal Iduna Park. So for me, this looks like a 3-1 scoreline for the home side. Peter, what do you reckon?
Well, we have a very difficult match to tip here as both teams are facing serious personnel issues heading into it. We learned at the Wednesday presser that Maximilian Bayer, Niklas Süle are questionable with colds, and Jan Kuto, of course, has been ruled out. Julian Rierson as well is fighting his way back. It's a race against time for him. So Sahin may have some difficulty staffing his defensive core. But I do believe that St. Pauli's problems are much greater. Of course, we have Jackson Irvine coming back from international break, heavy travel load on him. I believe he's carrying an injury as well from the Australian national football team, I should say. And the loss of Elias Saad is terrible news for FC St. Pauli. Interestingly enough, Dortmund have never lost a home match to FC St. Pauli, although there was that Pokal upset back in January of 2022, in which an Erling Haaland goal was not enough. Familiar occurrence, actually, something else that happened over the international break.
Yeah.
But I think that you're right here. I'm going to go ahead with a 3-0 Dortmund win will be my tip at home.
Okay, we'll slot your prediction in for the top one. Alan very right in saying that Seru also on fire for Guinea in the international break as well. I think he scored 2 braces, if I'm not mistaken, or possibly more.
Trick.
Hat trick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he is just inevitable right now. So yeah, you'd fancy him for a few goals. Whilst we're kind of talking about players who might do well and thinking about fantasy football, we'll put a tweet out, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do a show tomorrow, just based on availability of things, myself and Runa included. So no fantasy show on YouTube. But obviously, in place of that, we'll do all the usual postings on social media, on X, retweeting all the different bits and bobs that are coming out of Bully News. So that's just a heads up. We'll also tweet about that as well. Right, moving on to Saturday afternoon, and Borussia Mönchengladbach taking on FC Heidenheim. Very much different fortunes for these two sides so far this season. And I think, Peter, we're probably past the point of saying, well, Gladbach are actually playing okay, but the results haven't backed it up, which is, and I've said that a lot, to be fair, but it's coming to a boiling point with Gerardo, Soiane in the head coach role, I feel, with this squad of players just consistently being inconsistent. So this strikes me as a really big game for his future in the club, and it's not an easy game to match up. So I'm struggling with this one, and I might have to sit on the fence and go for a tetchy 1-1 draw. What do you reckon?
Well, it is no secret, of course, that Gerardo Seoane is under fire. The club and Roland Verkes and the Gladbach administration have made no secret of the fact that they've given him a 3-match ultimatum. He will be sacked entering the next international break if results are not to the higher-ups' likings. On paper, Gladbach should be able to win this one. They do get back Frank Onarat. And Paul Vana has come back from tour of duty with the Germany U21s with a slight injury, so Heidenheim would be missing their most impactful player. And obviously, Tim Kleindienst would love to score against his former club. But somehow, and I recall, both as a columnist and here on this pod, I've gone off on a lot of rants about Seoane's tactics and the fact that he never has been able to put a thesis together. I want to give Gladbach fans some good news here and say that, well, unfortunately, your team is going to lose 1-0 to Heidenheim. But the end of Seoane era is in sight. I mean, look, the only reason that he was maintained was because Gladbach didn't want to fire a trainer on the final day of the season, just to say it did with Adi Hütter and Daniel Fark in previous years. But I think, yes, I do think that this is going to be an epic botch job from Seoane, and that the era should be coming to a close soon. So 1-0 victory for Heidenheim.
Okay, so we're slightly different on that. I'll slot in that 1-1 result there. Next up, Mainz against RB Leipzig. This, of course, will be a tricky game for the away side of Leipzig, who are sitting pretty right now, have got over the line ugly a couple of times this season, but these are also the sort of games that do tend to trip over Leipzig. Mainz, going off the form of Johnny Burkhardt and Sieb as well was great to see just before the international break. So I will say 2-1 away win. I think Leipzig will just about get over the line in this one. But do you want to counter my suggestion there, Peter?
Well, this match accords us the opportunity to get into all of the political subtexts of Jurgen Klopp's move. So Jurgen Klopp, of course, was a Mainz player, and he got his coaching start there at Mainz. And he's still remained a rabid Mainz fan. And unfortunately, as Mainz CEO Christian Heidel himself said this week, well, the time for football romanticism is long over. There are so many subplots here. As a matter of fact, I was thinking that Leipzig would take Mainz to the woodshed, proverbial woodshed, if you will, and perhaps run over them with a very, very high scoreline. And I thought to myself, well, why did I think that? It reminded me of the time that Julian Nagelsmann's Mainz destroyed, or Julian Nagelsmann's Leipzig destroyed Sandro Schwarz's Mainz 8-0 in the 2019-20 campaign, and that was the beginning of the end of the Sandro Schwarz era as well. And of course, Sandro Schwarz is now in the Red Bull system, coaching the New York Red Bulls. So we have all sorts of crazy storylines and things like this. Despite the fact that Mainz were able to dig out that victory against St. Pauli, I was not particularly impressed with them. I think that not all that glitters is gold necessarily. Mainz still have a lot of fundamental problems, particularly both on and off the ball. This criticism of Bo Henriksen that he's more of a motivator than a tactician or a very, very good football technician hit home with me, despite the result that we saw just prior to the international break. Dominic Kor is, of course, suspended. That shouldn't be a problem because you have Hanke Olsen, who you can insert into that back three. Henriksen could also try and change his tactics, although I don't think that would be a good idea. Yeah. In Leipzig's case, they are missing David Raum. I think Justin has brought that up in the comments section. I'm not too certain that should be too much of a problem because Hendricks could play on the left, or Gertrude could play there as well. Gertrude would probably be my tip in the 4-2-2-2 system to take over it. I'm thinking 2-0 away win for Leipzig here. One in which they could potentially score a lot more goals, but they may have some finishing issues and problems in this one, would be my intuition. But I'm not according Mainz much of a chance here, despite the fact that they are at home, despite the fact that all of the German footballing romantics will be on their side in this one. It's a question of quality, and so, yeah.
Yep.
Indeed, I agree with you on the result.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, that it sounds like it's going to be a tough one. 4 Mainz, Ballum saying 2-0, Justin saying 3-1, Moritz saying as a Köln fan he wants Seoane to stay so that they can meet them again in the Zweite Liga. But yeah, interesting game with many different connotations there. But we'll lock in your 2-0 result on screen. Right, next up, SC Freiburg versus FC Augsburg. Tricky game, tricky game to call. Yeah, Freiburg for me, the team who, after that shock loss to St. Pauli, got themselves back to winning ways, not in the most glorious fashion, but did the job, and they continue to impress fairly quietly and going under the radar so far since the start of the season. Against Augsburg, who have struggled, and I don't see a good result for them at Europa Park. So I'm going to say a 2-0 home win. I feel nothing too flashy, but the home side to get the job done. Peter.
I'll disagree here. I think that Augsburg, of course, condolences to Kevin Schlotterbeck on that injury. He was doing so well. He scored that incredible goal in Augsburg's Friday night victory over Gladbach in the previous round. I think that Matisma can probably replace Schlotterbeck at the back. Augsburg continue to have their defending problems, but I think particularly veterans like Habaleu will be recharged after the international break. Asende comes back. I don't know whether or not he'll start, but I'm betting that there'll probably be a 2-striker set featuring Philip Tietz and either Asende or Alexis Claude Maurice, who made a very strong case for himself off the bench last week as well. So I think that yes, Torhop's Augsburg have what it takes to to grind a 1-1 draw out of this trip to Freiburg, despite the fact that we all love Freiburg. German Bundesliga fans do, and we love them on this pod here, what they've been able to accomplish under Julian Schuster. In Schuster's case, I see no reason why he will change his 11 from last time, and that can sometimes be a detriment. I think that the Torp will be well prepared for it, and that's why I'm tipping a 1-1 draw in that case.
No problem. So I'll just lock in that 2-0 win as we're taking it in turns there. So next to a game that is quite striking at the bottom end of the table, Hoffenheim taking on Bochum on Saturday afternoon. This is already a really big match for both sides. Bochum about to head into a really rough run of fixtures as well, so even more importance for the away side to try and get a result. Hoffenheim, to their credit, they put in a hell of a performance against my boys prior to the international break. I really felt that a motivated and Stuttgart side with another day or so's rest would have run through Hoffenheim, but Hoffenheim started the better and played really well. Of course, they sat back as the game went on, and Stuttgart were a bit ponderous, but credit to Pellegrino and his boys that they seem to have Stuttgart's number every so often. So for this one, this is tricky. I'm gonna have to be very annoying and probably sit on the fence here. Or do I fancy Hoffenheim? I'll go to you first, Peter. Why didn't you say this one?
Maybe not a lot of people are going to be looking forward to this match, but I am, as an absolute Bundesliga footballing nerd, not to mention a sort of a Bochum obsessed analyst, if you will. And it's been a very, very interesting international break for Bochum. They scheduled a test fixture against Köln, and it was really interesting. It was a 5-goal affair. They traveled there to the cathedral city, and Zeidler tested out this new 4-4-2 diamond that actually he had to do some emergency work on because Maximilian Witte got injured early, and this kid Mats Panevig filled in at left back. There were 2 goals, of course, scored for Bochum. They did ultimately end up losing the match to Köln. But Moritz Bonny Quateng, who is a player who we expected great things from when they signed him from Magdeburg last year, but injury issues. So he scored a very good goal, as did Moritz Brzezinski. And Koji Miyoshi was working very, very far back on the third axis assignment there in that 4-4-2 diamond. So I really liked the adventurous tactics that he put forward, the way that he was able to plaster with Panevig at left back as well. There's a lot of confidence in German footballing circles about Bochum right now, despite the fact that they are last placed in the league and sort of a joke in a lot of ways. People think that Zeidler, the energy that he brings to this team and the way the organization is committed to him, that they can actually, stay above the relegation fray and make things competitive this year, despite their current standing. Let's not forget that Thomas Lecce's Bochum did not win their first match until match day 10 last season. It's going to be a very, very interesting match. Hoffenheim, as you said, did not do poorly against Stuttgart, though I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Hoeneß was trying to mirror Hoffenheim's tactics for some reason. I don't know why he was doing that just prior to the international break. So there's some promising signs, for Hoffenheim. This Arthur Chavez, a kid who they got, performed reasonably well. in that one, and Gendry, the one who replaced Kadajarbek on the right wing back role, he played pretty well as well. But I am going for a 2-2 draw here, an exciting match that I look forward to reporting on, because I think that, I mean, the Hoffenheim's central defensive problems are just simply not going away, and they're not going to go away at the drop of a hat. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're going to get some goals out of this new sort of Bochum offensive engine. I don't know if Baradu is going to play or not. I think he's questionable. But if not, we can get Brzezinski and maybe Bamba in there. Very, very interesting fact about this match. You know, we kind of make fun of the fact that Peter Seidler is at the age of 60, you know, working his first, or 62, working his first Bundesliga assignment. But he did coach the Marx FC Nuremberg reserves. And one of the players that played underneath him was Pellegrino Matarazzo during that time. So he's facing one of his old players, one of his old proteges here. Just out of curiosity, I looked up Matarazzo's shot when he was playing for FC Nuremberg. That Italian-American with the degree from Columbia University was making some serious he looks like he could definitely be on the all ugly team. You know? The team you and I once co-captained were. So this is a very interesting match with a lot of subtext. You know, Matarazzo's job is with the new TSG administration isn't really in danger, and neither is Seidler's either. So I think we're going to see a lot of free-flowing football from both sides, a lot of interesting tactical changes from both managers, and I'm tipping a 4-goal thriller in which Bochum, as they like to say in English parlance, beats Hoffenheim 2-2. You know.
Yeah, well, I was thinking a draw, so I will say 1-1, but 2-2 I would not be too negative about either. Right, still Saturday afternoon, and you could be forgiven for thinking that the champions hosting on fire Frankfurt would be the top spiel. Alas, it is not. But still a great Saturday afternoon, offering of football for all you Bundesliga fans out there. This should be a really interesting matchup. I think another great test for this Frankfurt side that have gone through the season and really impressed. I think for Leverkusen, maybe the international break possibly came at a good time for them, just so that they could also have a bit of a reset and go again and try and get themselves back into form is probably the wrong thing to say, although they haven't, been out there sparkling best all season. So I think this could be a really close game. And I presume Frankfurt will very much approach it the same way that they did when they took on Bayern just before the international break and very much camp themselves in their own half and rely on the counter-attack and the pace and the accuracy of their brilliant counter-attacks to get forward and score goals against the Leverkusen defense that has been very leaky this season. No Bundesliga clean sheet thus far for the champions. Really interesting game. High scoring, one would imagine for sure. But I'm going to lock in a 3-2 home win. I believe that was one of the games that I put on socials already. So 3-2 to the champions for me.
We'll sync up exactly here. I also am going to tip a 3-2 win for the champions. What a tasty special this is. We are still buzzing in the Bundesrepublik, and I hope that all Bundesliga watchers are still buzzing from that incredible 6-goal thriller between Frankfurt and Bayern just prior to the end of the international break, and that amazing performance from Omar Marmoush, whom I I doubt we're going to see the same from him because I mean he was of course on international duty, and there's travel time to factor in and everything.
Mm.
You know, unfortunately, it looks like there's going to be no Flo Wiertz for this game. Simon Rolfes tried to muddy the waters a little bit and say that Wiertz might be available for this one. I don't believe that at all. Again, no fantasy show this week, but I think that a decent tip would be Nathan Tella, the Nigerian, who has been complaining about playing out of position and very much wants to play on that top attacking access there.
Yeah,
I think you'll probably see Boniface, Adli, and Tella, and I think that's good for 3 goals. If I'm honest, but you never know. I mean, we're both tipping a 5-goal thriller here, based on the fact that Frankfurt have just been amazing. They've been incredibly sumptuous on the counter, and we'd love to see more from Marmoush. We want to dance that Marmoushka, but we'll see how he comes back from the international break.
Very much so indeed. Looking forward to that one greatly. I am also looking forward to the top spiel on Saturday, which features FC Bayern Munich and VfB Stuttgart in a form of the Sud derby, the derby of the South. Really tasty game. I feel this for the sake of VfB and their form. Feels like we're kind of becoming the draw specialists in a sense. A couple of games that we've pulled back or not just been able to win despite playing pretty well. But yeah, you probably have to scratch that Hoffenheim game. I feel the other draw with Wolfsburg we were in control of prior to the red card. The Champions League is a delightful distraction and have been amazing so far, but has also presented its challenges in terms of just the experience of the squad and just those levels when you're playing against the best teams in Europe. And of course, Bayern would be and should be considered one of those teams, and yeah, it presents a really great challenge for the away side. But of course, Bayern have gone on a bit of a run of not winning in the last 3 or 4 games. So it's also a big challenge for Vincent Kompany and his lads. So yeah, as you maybe would have seen on social media, I'm going for another draw, another VfB draw. I'm slotting in a 2-2 fixture. Yeah, I don't see Stuttgart being able to get over the line, but a point in Munich wouldn't be too terrible. What do you reckon, Peter?
Sorry, Rory. I think that I mean Stuttgart. They have the UCL rotations to consider. Again, I was alluding to this earlier. Why Hoeneß decided to mirror his tactics against Hoffenheim prior to the international break? Something's going on there. Something fishy's going on. Of course, this is for Bayern. They're looking for revenge from that Stuttgart defeat that ultimately led to their double dethroning late last year, which Stuttgart surprisingly took the runners-up slot from the German record champions. And Monday's Germany Nations League fixture was hosted in the Allianz. And of course, Manuel Neuer and Thomas Müller were given full honors. They were, they're absolutely buzzing. They're ready to go. They're full of confidence. I think that you probably see a 3-1 win in this case. Although I do like your tip because it mirrors the sort of the top spiel that wasn't a couple of weeks ago when you had Leverkusen and Bayern. And it would be interesting to see something like that repeated. I will go ahead with a 3-1 Bayern win in this case. That's my personal tip, not the tip that I want to make. Stretch of the imagination, but
Bayern 3-1 should be a great game. I guess a couple of injury worries for both sides. I think certainly Stuttgart are going to be without Chris Furyk, although, of course, Chris has not been a regular starter so far this season.
Who cares? You have labeling.
Yeah, well, that exactly that. He's just gone to new levels, pardon the pun. Yeah, he's been awesome so far this season. Right, moving on to Sunday's action. Holstein Kiel taking on FC Union Berlin. Hopefully a bit of feel good factor for Kiel. Absolutely buzzing off that Leverkusen result, and the character that they showed, and they've scored goals at home so far, and that's something that they're able to do against Frankfurt, albeit very much exposed defensively in previous matches, but certainly feel that this is a good game for Kiel to possibly attack. We've spoken a little bit about how well Union have done, and it's been a positive start to their season, albeit not the most attractive football, but that's absolutely fine, and that's the way that Union have done it, and that's how they've been successful in many stretches in the last few seasons of playing on the counter and being resolute and playing for set pieces, etc. So I tell you what, why don't we go for a mini upset on the cards and just throw something out there? I'll go for a 2-1 home win for Kiel to mix things up. Why not? Fancy them at home just to upset the odds a little bit here. Peter, what do you reckon?
I hope you're right, not just for the sake of German football, but also for the sake of our Sunday match reporter at Billy News, Anton Corcoran. I want him to have a good match to cover. I have a bad feeling about this match, Rory. I have a bad feeling about both of these teams. Kiel went back to the back seven against Leverkusen, that same back seven that I saw on opening match day, and I'm very, very, very concerned about it. And we have serious problems in the attack. We continue to have problems in the attack with Bo Svensson's FC Union Berlin. I'm glad that Kevin Vogt scored the winning goal, his first goal in a decade at the Bundesliga level in the upset over Dortmund last week. But I'm tipping a 0-0 draw here, and I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Yeah, let's hope we get a couple of goals on Sunday. And then we will finish off with, the all-green derby. VfL Wolfsburg against SV Werder Bremen. Nice way to finish off the weekend. Should be an interesting game, this one, as well. Wolfsburg, under Ralf Hasenhüttl, have picked up a couple of better results and looked a little bit better, certainly as a team. The way that they've slotted in or resurrected Jonas Wind, and obviously his new strike partner or forward player in Amura seems to have settled in very nicely, along with Thiago Tomas. That's going quite well. So at home, you would imagine they'd be confident of being able to push forward and get some joy in that department. Obviously for Werder, the home loss against Freiburg was not terrible, but it wasn't amazing either. Have done better on the road so far this season, so that there is that to consider. So with those two things in the mixture, I'm probably going to have to sit on the fence and go 1-1. Peter, what are your thoughts on the last game of the weekend?
Well, it's about time we give some Wolfsburg fans some good news. Also, Volkswagen employees some good news as well. There was unfortunately, I think, 50,000 layoffs at the concern this past week. So Ralf Hasenhüttl actually beat Bremen 2-0 his first match in charge of the German Wolves when he was hired last spring. And I think on paper, this isn't much of a comparison. Bremen continue to really have no attack whatsoever. They completed that amazing comeback against Hoffenheim, thanks to Jens Stage, but certainly of the strikers. Marvin Duksch has scored 1 goal this season. Njinma's been hurt, unfortunately. Marco Grul has proved a little bit of a flop. KK Top doesn't appear ready for this level just yet. Mitchell Weiser in the attack is a fantastic story, and I love it to death, but it's not necessarily one that's going to produce goals. And in contrast, we have Mora and to a certain extent Wind as well. In Wolfsburg, we have some strikers that are really clicking, a system that's clicking, and things that are ticking. So I'm going to go for a 3-0 Wolfsburg victory here for Germany's Green Company team.
Tell you what, you've talked me into that. I agree with you now. Yeah, the reasonings behind that are very sound logic. So we'll lock in 3-0. Certainly, yeah, you'd imagine Wolfsburg will be pretty confident ahead of that one. So that brings us to a close. Looking forward to all the action, of course, for the next round of Bundesliga fixtures.
Can I say just a little bit before you close out? Absolutely. This has been an extended show, of course, this evening, since we don't have a fantasy show tomorrow. I wanted to thank everyone for joining us in the chat box and give everyone a little bit of an update on the fact that after Mark and I concluded the Wiesenzeit series of vlogs, our next plan was sort of a fan appreciation travel series of vlogs, which unfortunately got delayed by some unforeseen cancellations. But we love our fans here on Over the Bar, and thank you all for joining us. And we have some other special vlogs targeted at our fans planned soon. And with that, I'll pass it over to you, Rory. Thank you for letting me speak.
You're very welcome. We like free speech on the Over the Bar show, on the Bundesliga show rather. So yes, we shall close up for tonight. So as per, thank you to everyone for tuning in and engaging with us, particularly getting involved in predictions is always great fun when everyone gets involved. So thank you, Ballum, Justin, Moritz, Erin as well, checking in. It's all great stuff. Thank you. Even if you don't get involved in the chat, we appreciate everyone who joins us on the Bundesliga show. So all there is left to say is make sure you do leave a thumbs up on the show. Comment if you haven't watched this live and let us know your thoughts. Make sure you press that red button and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of said vlogs that Peter and Mark have done on their adventures in the last few weeks. Absolutely excellent stuff. I'm very, very jealous, of course. And yeah, if you're interested, do check out Over the Bar on X, or also known formerly as Twitter, at Over the Bar FB. That's where you'll find all the details of all our upcoming shows there. And of course, we're over on Instagram as well, posting as much as possible. Sometimes some sneak peeks and pictures for certainly based on Mark and Peter's travels. Often you get a nice glimpse of that as well. So fantastic stuff. Thank you to everyone for watching. Hope you have a lovely weekend enjoying the Bundesliga content and games. And we'll catch you again on Monday evening. Thank you all. Take care.